you, Prabhus.
I gotta trip my tooth on it.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari O Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Hey Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari O Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari O Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari O Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana O Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, texts 9 through 14. You can go ahead and start.
When the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the results of past action is slackened, one turns away from his attachment to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine, and becomes liberated. Thus, one goes to the transcendental world.
O my son, you should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth. Then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances. For the sake of devotional service, give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with His devotees. Chant about and glorify the Lord, and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home, and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life here, mind and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego.
A lot to assimilate.
As I have advised you, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Be very careful. By these means you'll be freed from the ignorance of the desire for fruitive activity, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be completely severed. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. That is, you should not become attached to the process of liberation itself.
Okay, I guess we'll do one of the verses because Chapter 5, Canto 5, Lord Rishabhadev's teachings. Hamse Guru Mai Bhaktanuvritya. Okay, text 10. Vitranaya dvandva titikshaya cha. Sarvatra jantor vyasanavagatya. Jignashayata paseha nivritya. Hamse gurau mai bhaktanuvritya. Vitrishnaya dvandva titikshaya cha. Sarvatra jantor vyasanavagatya. Jignasayata pasaha nivritya. Sarvatra jantor vyasanavagata. Jigyasayata paseha nivritya. So I think I'll just go to the purport if that's okay. And then we'll read the verse again after, but it's a long purport, so. In these 4 verses, Rishabdev tells his sons how they can be freed from the false identification arising from false ego and material conditional life. One gradually becomes liberated by practicing as mentioned above. All these prescribed methods enable one to give up the material body, lingam vyapo het, and be situated in his original spiritual body. First of all, one has to accept a bona fide spiritual master. This is advocated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shri Guru Padashraya. To be freed from the entanglement of the material world, one has to approach a spiritual master. Tad Vigyanartham Sa Gurum Eva Bega Chet. By questioning the spiritual master and by serving him, one can advance in spiritual life. When one engages in devotional service, naturally the attraction for personal comfort, for eating, sleeping, and dressing is reduced. By associating with the devotee, a spiritual standard is maintained. The word Madheva Sangat is very important. There are many so-called religions devoted to the worship of various demigods. But here, good association means association with one who simply accepts Krishna as his worshipable deity. Another important item is dvandva titiksha. As long as one is situated in the material world, there must be pleasure and pain arising from the material body. As Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita, tams tatikshashva bharata. One has to learn how to tolerate the temporary pains and pleasures of this material world. One must be detached from his family and practice celibacy. Sex with one's wife, according to the scriptural injunctions, is also accepted as brahmacharya, celibacy. But illicit sex is opposed to religious principles, and it hampers advancement in spiritual consciousness. Another important word is vijnana virajita. Everything should be done very scientifically and consciously. One should be a realized soul. In this way, one can give up the entanglement of material bondage. As Sri Madhvacharya points out, the sum and substance of these 4 shlokas is that one should refrain from acting out of a desire for sense gratification and should instead always engage in the Lord's loving service. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the acknowledged path of liberation. Srila Madhvacharya quotes from the Adhyatma, Atmano vihitam karma varjayat vanya karmana kamasya cha parityago nirihit ahur uttamaha. One should perform activities only for the benefit of the soul. Any other activities should be given up. When a person is situated in this way, he is said to be desireless. Actually, a living entity cannot be totally desireless, but when he desires the benefit of the soul and nothing else, he is said to be desireless. Spiritual knowledge is jnana vijnana samanvitam. When one is fully equipped with jnana and vijnana, he is perfect. Jnana means that one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, to be the Supreme Being. Vijnana refers to the activities that liberate one from the ignorance of material existence. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31, Jnanam paramaguyam meyad vijnana samanvitam. Knowledge of the Supreme Lord is very confidential, and the supreme knowledge by which one understands Him furthers the liberation of all living entities. This knowledge is vijnana, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mamaiti so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, or Arjuna. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. O my sons, you should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth, then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life, air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. Hari Om. Yeah. It's like you enter a school, you're like thinking, well, should I be a student or not be a student? And all of a sudden the person gives you the syllabus for like the highest level PhD qualifications. Basically, that's what devotional life is. It's the highest achievement possible in not just this universe, but in creation. So it's a lot to process. There's a lot going on, right? But in one sense, yeah, it's the final destination of the soul to regain and revive our original blissful consciousness in devotional service. So, although we can read this paragraph in there's 4 verses in not even a minute, 2 minutes. Basically, what our whole lifetime, this is like the Lord Himself is coming and giving everything we need to know for forever. Well, in one sense, the next verse says you should give up the process, but I don't know. That doesn't mean these activities of hearing and chanting, which is the energy of the soul, will always be doing that. So from one angle of vision, it's like, whew, that's a lot to process, to do. Like I heard Vaisheshika Prabhu say once that engaging in devotional life, all the things that are being asked, it's like being an Olympic athlete, everything is fine-tuned. You have to adjust what you eat, when you sleep, how you sleep, what direction. Like, how devotees are like, is this east? Is this, or is this vastu? Is this organic? Is this offered? Every little aspect of life is fine-tuned to the max, and it's a lot. But from one angle, from the other angle, it's our nature to be blissfully engaged in hearing and chant and doing all these things. It's just what happens naturally. It's not what Prabhupada says, an artificial imposition on the mind. So, yeah, that's what devotional communities are for. Prabhupada said we've created this Krishna consciousness so that people can hear. And that's what we're doing. We're just like you open Prabhupada's books, then it's like the first verse, God himself is, you should approach a highly elevated Paramahamsa. So what did Prabhupada do? Prabhupada approached us. He made it just like when Jagannath comes out of the temple. Okay, people aren't coming to pray to me, then the Lord of the universe, the Lord of unlimited universes comes out of his causeless mercy to give himself to us. And the pure devotees, they are in that line of mercy. They're in the mood of the Lord. And like, okay, Prabhupada, at what age did he come to America? From the kids. Raseshri. How old was Prabhupada when he came to America? You can guess. Jaishnav. You know how old Prabhupada was when he came? Nayanamrita? Nayananvita, do you know? He was 70, he turned 70 on the boat because he was on the ship at 70 years old. Myself, I'm starting to feel a little tired. I'm 53, so at 70, he already embarked on a worldwide mission, basically. And it wasn't like an easy flight. It took who knows how many months. Yeah, I think 2 months. And he had heart attacks, seasickness. It was intense. But why? Following in the mood of the Lord to give the mercy. So it said, Rishabdev is telling his sons, you should approach. Or Prabhupada, he's breaking that, making it easier. He's giving himself to the world. And then also an extension of his desire to give the mercy of the Lord was his book distribution. So one time this great book distributor named Parameshwar, he had a dream that he walked into the temple and Prabhupada's Murti spoke to him. The Murti said, hey, come here. And he went over and he said, bring somebody for me to preach to. And then Parameshwar was like, okay. And he was shocked that the Murti was speaking to him, and then he looked around and there was nobody in the temple. Then somebody walked in, and then he looked at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was sitting in the Murti, sitting still, and he was like, and then he didn't know what to do, and he did what he always did as his service. He handed him the science of self-realization. And then Prabhupada looked over him and nodded to him, and then he realized, wow, I'm giving Prabhupada directly to these souls. And it's explained just like that one verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prashade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, that the living entity is wandering in unlimited universes, and when they become fortunate, Guru Krishna Prashade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, then the Guru comes to them and gives them the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of devotion. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets a Guru, by the mercy of the Guru, one gets the seed of devotion, and one gets Krishna. They're tag teaming, Guru and Krishna. So this is the first item of devotional services, that we should approach a spiritual master. And then it gets more, let's say, personal. Prabhupada, we hear, where do we hear? Like when I first started reading Prabhupada's books, I would just take a small book, any book, and I would keep it in my back pocket when I was like 19 years old, and I would open it up and anywhere, and I'd just read a sentence or two and be like, oh, that's good for like a day or two. And I would think, but I remember, okay, from that style of reading, I got in my mind, okay, I should find a spiritual master. And I was thinking, I have to go to India to find a guru. And so that's, Prabhupada is already come to us as the Shiksha Guru, the ultimate guiding guru, the founder Acharya, the main Shiksha Guru for ISKCON and for the world, so to speak, forever. But then, and part of like boiling the milk, you know that phrase? It gets thicker and more nectarian. So part of that is then you approach a disciple of Prabhupada and you get your personal Diksha Guru. And then you boil the milk more, then you approach, then you realize, okay, it's not just my one guru, but it's a whole, like they say, it takes a village. Then we find more inspiration. We see that the guru is ultimately, it's Krishna manifesting through his devotees, and the Diksha Gurus and the Shiksha Gurus and our mentors and our people that inspire us. And then we go deeper into this whole process of what's being laid out here by Rishabdev. So many do's and don'ts. Prabhupada once said, if I told you everything, you would faint. If you don't, from the beginning, what to do, what not to do. But the nice thing is that just being positively engaged, like sometimes personally when I hear, oh man, detest sense gratification, I always observe celibacy. Like my first reaction, to be honest, is like, oh yeah, he just had 100 sons and now he's saying be always celibate. I'm like, oh yeah, that's for me. I was like, anyways, just to be straightforward. I was like, so sometimes I hear the don'ts. I hear too many don'ts, and I just like, I'm like, I shut off. But if I hear, not hear, but if I feel, when I engage in devotional service, when I'm in a kirtan, when I hear devotees that are inspired give Krishna Katha, talk about Krishna, talk about the philosophy, when I take prasadam, when I positively experience the spiritual sense gratification, so to speak, then oh yeah, I can see, yeah, it's a natural process. When you get something better, you give up the lower things. So this is what Prabhupada has given us, is that a society of devotees to inspire each other. And while I was listening just a little bit while getting ready to come to the temple, and Prabhupada was saying, oh, you just hear and repeat like a parrot. You just say what Krishna has said. And that's why we've created temples, so that others can hear the words of Krishna. So like right here, we're hearing, and whether I have so much realization on all the intricacies of all these practices, that'll add to the experience. But also, it's simple for the simple. Prabhupada says, just hear and repeat Krishna's words, and the effect will be there. Maybe it's, like Prabhupada said, it's a gradual process. So this is what we're doing, is hearing the words of Rishabdev. He's an incarnation. He's telling his sons the whole process. And it's a good thing to keep in mind that it's Jai Radhakala Chanji, Jai Shishi Gornitai, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. That what we're assimilating is higher than like becoming like what if we were to endeavor to become a PhD in something, or to become a doctor, or become something very elevated in the material world, even let's say a demigod, the different austerities are the things that you have to do to qualify yourself to be, successful in different spheres of this universe, whether it's Earth, planet, or higher planets. It's nothing compared to the ultimate perfection of reviving the soul's love, the soul's original, all of our intrinsic original relationship with Krishna. It's the highest, most elevated position. So understanding, have a little gauge when we maybe self-introspect and maybe look at ourselves and think, oh, I didn't follow this part, I didn't follow that part. Oh, if you don't cry while chanting the holy name, your heart is still steel framed, and you hear things like that. You go, well, this is like, the highest thing that's being given, and it's a gradual process. Hare Krishna. Any thoughts or questions? Sorry for the rambling. Jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So I have a question on this sentence where Lord Rishabhadev is giving an instruction. He says, live in a secluded place and practice a process by which you can completely control your life, air, mind and senses. So I have two questions on this. Is this still applicable for people in Kali Yuga, and is this also the process for Bhakti Yoga? Because in the concluding sentence he says, thus practicing Bhakti Yoga. So I'm a little bit confused.
Do you know what his sons did after? I can't remember. Do you remember what they did after he got the instructions? Is there anybody remember? Is there description in the further you remember? Want to give him a mic too?
Bharat Maharaj's life is there. He rules the kingdom and then he goes to the forest, but he becomes, you forgot? There, he practices devotional service in a secluded place, but he becomes attached to a deer, and then he is born as a deer, and then he is born as Jada Bharat. And then in that life he attains the Krishna's abode.
So he's giving, Bharat Maharaj is one of the sons, and he gave a description of how he applied the secluded place. And then he also showed how the Bhagavatam said what happened, where he got attached to the deer. So Prabhupada has created more than a secluded place. So it's said that the, nature is in the mode of goodness. So yogis and sages would go to a secluded place in nature because that was the most suitable for doing all these activities. They wouldn't be disturbed by other people engaging in sense gratification all around them, like big cities which are passionate, which we see today. Jai Radha Kalachandji. So Prabhupada has created better than secluded place. He's created all these temples, like I was saying, for hearing about Krishna, which is Vishuddha Sattva. Like Sattva is mode of goodness, Vishuddha Sattva is pure goodness. So temples are surcharged. It's like Prabhupada said, I left Vrindavan to go and spread Krishna's message all over the world, but I always feel like I'm here in LA, but this is Vrindavan, because wherever he went, he had devotional activities, deities, hearing and chanting. So Prabhupada's just like there's embassies. You could be in India, but you can be in the American embassy. Though like legally or whatever, it's American laws apply there. So spiritually speaking, Prabhupada has created so many spiritual secluded places, if you want to say, for us to experience the reality. Just like we may not be fully conscious of the ecstasies of the energies of our atmosphere of the temple. Oh, but what's going on here is the exact same thing that's going on in Goloka Vrindavan. What are they doing? The devotees wake up, and even if they rush to Krishna's, let's say you're a cowherd boy, and they rush to be with Krishna, and some of them get to help dress Krishna, and then they rush out to play with Krishna, and then, so what do? We wake up, we rush to see Krishna, to be with Krishna, if we're fortunate, to dress Krishna. If you're a parent of Krishna, what do? You wake up, you immediately think, I want to feed Krishna. What do the devotees do here? They wake up early, I want to feed Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So the same activities are going on, but may, of course, according to our level of absorption and causeless mercy, we may be realizing it to different degrees, that we're actually in the presence, that we're in the spiritual world, so to speak. Any thoughts? Yeah, but this is the secluded place, higher than the secluded place.
But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, after he got initiated, went to a secluded place and chanted so many rounds. I really think it's like more of it's not that it's not applicable in Kali Yuga, it's more of what is our duty, because it's still a possibility. So we shouldn't just say that it's not a part of Bhakti Yoga process, but we should also understand if it's our instructions are practical to us. That's my thought.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it seems that there are some items in the list here by Lord Rishabhadev that are more aligned with like mystic yoga practices. Like he talks about prana. In the next verse, where he talks about how the process should be given up, then Srila Prabhupada says in the purport there that what should be given up is the practice, these yoga practices. He says that one actually comes to devotional service, one does not need to practice the mystic yoga system. So these things of going to, of course, Prabhupada interprets going to a secluded place as going to just associating with devotees, like you said, and not associating with general mass of like materialistic people. But yeah, so it looks like what Srila Prabhupada is doing is like filtering through the different items of this verse and pulling out those ones which are exclusively bhakti, like Kevala bhakti, and like those we continue practicing, but there are some that may be favorable for the development of bhakti, that having attained bhakti, we don't need to practice anymore. Those are the ones that are more like mystic yoga, pranayam, secluded place, controlling the mind, controlling the senses, like in the yoga style. Is that okay?
Hi, Jai Gauranga Prabhu. Thank you for a edifying and relevant class. My question is I kind of see this often. It seems like the end goal, giving up the false ego, is like you kind of already, in order to like do a few of these things, seems like you can't really have much false ego, like always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or inquiring knowledge from the right source. It's kind of like you have to be giving up the false ego anyways already. So I don't know. Like we have to do all these things in order to give up the false ego, but you kind of have to give up the false ego in order to do these things. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg type of question?
I guess, I think your realization is good. Yeah, It's like that one, something struck me in the purport was like, all you have to do is be liberated. What was it? Huh? Yeah, I mean, if you can, yeah, in order to do it, but you have to, yeah. Where is that? Can you read it, the whole thing? I read that, I was like, oh, God. Yeah, yeah. One should be a realized soul. In this way, one can give up the entanglement of material bondage. I was like, oh, thanks. Yeah, it's just that simple. It's just like, if from a pure devotee's angle, it's like, yeah, you should just be a, like, one story comes to mind, this devotee named, I forgot his name, but he was a sannyasi at one stage, and he was a big collector. He had a party of devotees that would collect, and he paid for a lot of the Vrindavan temple and Juhu temple, his collecting party. So once in the middle of the night, Prabhupada called his servant and said, bring Guru Kripa, Prabhu. I want to talk to him. So the servant went and woke him up. It was the middle of the night, and he said, Prabhupada wants to see you. And he was like, now? And then he quickly got himself together and went, paid his obeisances. And so Prabhupada said, what are you doing? And Prabhupada said, Guru Kripa Prabhu said, I was sleeping. He said, why are you sleeping? He said, I was tired. He said, why are you tired? And then he said, I'm not a pure devotee. I'm conditioned. I'm not. And he said, why are you conditioned? And he started crying. The devotee started crying. And Prabhupada said, that's all right. And he read him some Krishna story. He said, bring me Krishna book. He read him a little Krishna book. He said, go to sleep. Go back to sleep. I mean, I heard that story. I was like, phew. So yeah, Prabhupada's asking everything, right? From us. So yeah, as much as we can give up, the quicker the better, the good for us. Krishna's ready to give himself to us. What's holding us back is our false ego, our attachment to think, oh, if I give this much, then I'll only get this much. And then if I don't, I'm speaking for myself. Yeah, it's like, we read these things over and over. But yeah, that's the process of purification. The more we can give up our false ego, basically means that we think we can enjoy separately from Krishna, then the better, the more we will really enjoy, so to speak, enjoy Krishna. I mean, enjoy serving, enjoy giving pleasure to Krishna. Enjoy the reality of the soul's loving relationship with Krishna. Go ahead.
Just reminds me, because you're talking about, he sees it, it's very simple. One time I asked Giriraj Maharaj, I was asking him kind of like what to do about, my material desires, and he was like, oh, you still have material desire. He said something like, oh, he's like, what do you desire? Like, what are you attracted to? I said, I want to enjoy this material world. He was like, why? Like, what about it? I was like, I don't know. I just have, material desires. And he just went, like, that's foolish. Thank you.
That's sweet. Yeah, like the position of a devotee is higher than any position in the material, like even any level of demigod. That it said that you sometimes pass the heavenly planets on your way on the Vaikuntha plane to Goloka Vrindavan. And if you have a tinge of desire to, oh, maybe there is some pleasure, just like that other thing in here. What was that verse? Oh, in the verse, how it says that you should try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Like we're not anywhere near the pleasures that come from the heavenly planets, or we're tantalized by something in this realm. Forget it. Like we're KO'd in a different level of enjoyment. We'd be like, yep, I'll take that. So yeah, sometimes, so a pure devotee, their pleasure in giving pleasure to Krishna in devotional service is so intense. I remember I was in San Diego and Dravida Prabhu, he told me that a devotee won't give up a moment's. You could get all the pleasures of the material world, if you just gave up your Krishna consciousness for a moment, the devotee's like, no, it's okay. Their pleasure from giving pleasure of serving is so intense that they wouldn't even do it for, a moment's. Step by step, in the association of ecstatic people, devotees.
I did. I wanted to say thank you about your point of the do's and don'ts, and how when you get into the don'ts, all of a sudden that a dark cloud comes over. Because I feel you in that like when I start looking at my shortcomings, because I hear of all the don'ts that I'm supposed to do, man, it's just like. And so I really appreciate it, because I really summed up what Srila Prabhupada said. When we become automatically we start to do right in the sense of eating, sleeping, and one other thing when we practice devotional service. So if we just practice dressing,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, right. So like if we just focus on the devotional service, those things will regulate themselves and stuff like that. So I thought you were really bringing that out nicely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just, when looking through all the list of items that Lord Rishabhadeva is instructing his sons to do, there's some that, when we look at it, we think, okay, I can do that. And then there are others that are just like, huh? Right? Like, one should be a realized soul. Like, all right, I'm just going to do that from tomorrow, So I think that the idea is that, like in devotional service, there are things that we can apply, and then there are other things that we just have to meditate on and aspire for. Like even if you look at a book like Nectar of Instruction, it starts off with, Vacho Vegam, control your speech, control the mind, control anger. And then very quickly it's like Radharani, Radha Kund, arousing your love of God. So it's like, okay, this is what we're aspiring for, but in order to get there, this is what we have to start with, is Vacho Vegam, Manasikota Vegam. So there's some things here that we aspire for. The things that we can't do, we can eventually achieve by doing the things that we can do. So rather than being discouraged by not being able to do the things that we can't do, we should just focus on doing the things that we can do, and then gradually our ability expands.
Mm-hmm. I looked something up. Thank you, yeah. I wanted to focus on a point that I forgot, that everything is achieved by the causeless mercy of the Lord. Attraction to the process of devotional service, the ability to control the mind and senses. So I'll just read this verse here real fast. We can end. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, this is Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 32. So all of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy. Purport: the secret of success in understanding the intricacies of knowledge of the absolute truth, the personality of God, it is the causeless mercy of the Lord. Even in the material world, the father of many sons discloses the secret of his position to the pet sons. The father discloses the confidence unto the son whom he thinks worthy. An important man in the social order can be known by his mercy only. Similarly, one must be very dear to the Lord in order to know the Lord. The Lord is unlimited. No one can know him completely. But one's advancement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can make one eligible to know the Lord. Here we can see that the Lord is sufficiently pleased with Brahmaji, and therefore he offers his causeless mercy to him so that Brahmaji may have the factual realization of the Lord by his mercy only. So we're begging for the devotee's mercy. So to qualify ourselves to be able to please the Lord and get the Lord's causeless mercy. Hari Om Tat Sat. Any last things? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hari Bol.